Here's a riddle, hidden in these stories. Two voices speak, but never out loud. One hides in titles, bold and proud. The other whispers where each tale begins, then vanishes before the fear sets in. Find them both, piece them as one. The warning was always there, waiting to be undone. Someone was already in the shower before I got home. Not literally, I didn't see anyone. But the floor was wet, the air was steamy, and my towel had moved. I lived alone. That should have been impossible. I work second shift at a 24-hour printing facility in Phoenix. By the time I get home, it's usually around 1 a.m. I keep a simple routine: heat up leftovers, shower, then sleep. My apartment's small, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, that's it. Quiet, comfortable, until a few weeks ago. The night it started, I walked in and smelled steam before I even hit the bathroom. The mirror was fogged, the tub was dripping, and my towel was slung over the door, but not how I left it. I paused, told myself I must have left it like that in a rush. I dried the floor with my sock and let it go, but it kept happening. The next night, the water was running when I opened the door. Just a slow trickle from the shower head. My heart jumped. I shut it off immediately, but the knob didn't feel right, like it had just been turned. I walked the apartment, checked the lock, the windows. Everything was secure, no sign of a break-in. I didn't call anyone. It felt dumb, like I was being paranoid. A few days later, I came home and the bathroom door was closed. I always leave it open. Always. I stood there staring at it for a long time. The handle had condensation on it. I reached for it, paused, then walked away. Ate cold leftovers and fell asleep on the couch. I didn't want to go in. The fourth night, I forced myself to check the place first. I went in swinging, literally, broom in one hand, flashlight in the other. I opened the bathroom door fast and wide. Nothing. But the drain had hair in it. Short, black, curly hair. I'm blonde. I don't have guests. I stood frozen. I could hear my own heart. I grabbed a trash bag, used 2 paper towels, and pulled it out like it was radioactive. Dumped it, tied it, took it straight outside. My legs were shaking by the time I got to the dumpster. I barely slept. The 5th night, I stayed out late. I went to a 24-hour diner and watched YouTube on my phone until nearly 3 a.m. I didn't want to go home, but I couldn't just not go. When I got there, everything seemed fine. Lights off, door unlocked, quiet. I walked to the bathroom slowly. It was open, nothing wet, no steam. I flipped the light on and stopped breathing. The mirror had the words "shower was cold" written across it in a streaked smear, like someone used their finger through the steam. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stared. Then I turned and left. Slept in my car that night. I told the building manager. He changed the lock, checked for forced entry, even let me watch him do it. No signs anyone had been in. No reports from other tenants. He said it was probably a prank, or maybe a bad dream. So I stayed up the next night. No lights, just waited on the couch with a bat. At 2:41 a.m., I heard water running. I tiptoed to the bathroom door. It was closed again. I turned the knob slowly, heart in my throat, bat raised. I flung it open, no one there. But the tub was full, almost to the edge, steaming. And floating in it was my toothbrush. I didn't breathe, didn't move. I just backed out slowly, shut the door, locked it, and sat in the hallway with the bat in my lap until the sun came up. I haven't used that bathroom since. I duct-taped the door shut. I used the gym down the street to shower. I brush my teeth in the kitchen sink. Every night I check the door, and every night I still hear water dripping behind it. I'm scared to open it again, but I'm more scared of what might happen if I ever fall asleep and someone opens it for me. They say dogs bark at nothing. I wish that were true. They knew something was wrong before I did. Both of them, Duke, my German Shepherd, and Luna, my mutt, started pacing before the sun went down. Ears perked, low growls staring at the back door like something was on the other side. But nothing ever knocked. Nothing moved. I live just outside of Sacramento, in a rented house with a fenced yard. My roommate was out of town, and I had the place to myself for a few days. I don't scare easily. I've lived alone before. I lock my doors, I carry pepper spray, but this was different. The dogs were on edge, and they never are. I figured maybe it was a raccoon or something small, so I let them out back to burn off energy. They ran in circles, barking like maniacs. But after a while, they calmed down. I did too, until night fell. Around 1 a.m., I was half asleep on the couch when Duke let out a low, guttural growl. The kind of sound that doesn't mean I'm annoyed. It means I'm ready to fight. I sat up straight. Luna was standing stiff, her whole body tense. They were both staring at the back sliding glass door. I looked. Nothing there, but Duke started barking like crazy. Not random barking. The focused, snarling kind, staring at one specific spot on the glass like he could see something I couldn't. I turned on the porch light. Still nothing. I opened the door an inch just to let them sniff. Both dogs refused to go outside. That's what scared me the most. Not the barking, the fact that they wouldn't go out. I locked the door, double-checked every window, and grabbed the biggest knife in the kitchen, just in case. At 2:20 a.m., Duke started pacing the hallway. He'd walk to the front door, stop, stare, walk back. Luna curled up under the coffee table, her usual hiding spot when she's scared of thunder. But there was no thunder, no storm, just silence. Then I heard the sound. 3 soft taps from somewhere in the back. I muted the TV, waited. Nothing. Then again, tap, 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 softer this time. I stood up and turned toward the kitchen, slowly creeping toward the back door. The porch light was still on. No movement, but Luna was shaking, literally trembling under the table. And Duke started whining, something he only does when he's scared or in pain. I decided to check the backyard again. I unlocked the sliding door, stepped out onto the porch with my phone flashlight on, and scanned the fence line. Nothing. I turned back toward the house and noticed something I hadn't seen before. A shoe print. On the inside of the glass door, near the bottom, like someone had stepped there. I took a picture, backed inside slowly, locked the door again. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely think. That's when the power went out. Lights off, TV off, security light outside, gone. Just black. The dogs went nuts. Barking, pacing, then retreating to the hallway, ears pinned back. I followed them. That's when I saw the shadow. Just for a second, someone moving outside the living room window. I dropped to the floor, crawled to the couch, waited, and then nothing. Silence again, too silent. I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway with the dogs, both pressed up against me like bodyguards. The power came back at 4:12 a.m. I remember the exact time because the microwave beeped and made me jump out of my skin. When the sun came up, I checked everything. All doors still locked, windows locked, no signs of break-in. But that footprint? It was gone. Not wiped, just gone. Like it had never been there. I showed the picture to the landlord. He shrugged, said maybe it was mine. It wasn't. I don't stay there alone anymore, and when I do, I watch the dogs, not the windows, because they'll always hear it first. And next time, I won't check. I'll just listen, and I'll run. At first, I thought it was just a mistake in the system. Then, someone knocked back. At night, the building felt different. I worked security in a mid-rise apartment complex near downtown. It was mostly retirees and college students, quiet tenants, low drama. I liked the job because all I had to do was monitor cameras, do a couple patrols, and log packages. Easy money. Every floor had 8 units. One night a few weeks ago, I was doing my 1 a.m. walkthrough when I noticed a strange red light under the door of 4B. It was faint, like a TV left on in a dark room. I made a note of it, figured someone left it running and fell asleep. But when I got back to the front desk, I remembered something. 4B was vacant. I double-checked the occupancy log, still empty. Lease ended last month, no new tenant listed. I radioed maintenance just to be sure. No response. Not unusual. Those guys barely answer during the day, so I decided to check it out myself. The door to 4B was locked, but not latched all the way. I knocked once. No answer. I waited, then gently pushed. It opened about 6 inches before catching on the chain lock. From that gap, I could hear static. Not loud, just a steady, low hum like an untuned TV or radio. I called out, "Security, anyone in here?" Nothing. I stood there listening, just the buzz, no movement, no footsteps. I decided not to push it further. I backed off, shut the door, and logged the incident. Told myself it was probably a worker using the unit to charge something. Still weird, but not terrifying. Until the next night. Same red light, same low static, same half-latch door. This time, I brought the master key. I knocked, announced myself, then carefully unchained the door and stepped inside. It was freezing, like breath fog cold, which made no sense. The heat should have been off. Inside, the apartment was empty. No furniture, no boxes, no signs of life. But in the center of the living room, facing the wall, was a folding chair and an old CRT TV. The TV was on, just static. No input source, no channels, just that gray snow and soft crackle. I reached for the power button, and the screen glitched, not like it turned off. More like it blinked. The static vanished for a split second, replaced by a still frame of something. A hallway, dark, blurry, then back to static. I turned it off, backed out of the apartment, locked it, and reported the incident. No one followed up. Third night, I didn't go back up. I watched the feed from the desk instead. Nothing moved near 4B for hours, but at 2:17 a.m., as the hallway camera glitched. It didn't cut out, just flickered. And when it came back, the door to 4B was cracked open again. No one had walked in or out. I rewound it 3 times. It was closed. Then it was open. I radioed maintenance again, no answer. I called the property manager, no answer. I didn't go up there. At 4:05 a.m., someone buzzed the front desk from the call box outside. That shouldn't happen. Tenants use key fobs. No one buzzes at that hour. I checked the camera feed. No one was there. I pressed the intercom. "Hello?" Static. Then a voice. "Can you check on 4B?" Not 4B, 4B, like how a kid would say it. I froze. "Who is this?" Click. Call ended. No one outside. No one walked up. Just gone. I gave my 2 weeks the next morning. But before I left, I asked a maintenance guy if anyone had ever lived in 4B long-term. He nodded. "Yeah, a guy named Miller, old tenant. Quiet, watched a lot of TV. When did he move out?" He blinked. "Didn't. He died in there back in 2015. Found him facing the wall. TV was still on. The unit's still empty. But sometimes the system still shows it as occupied, and every time I see that red glow on the hallway cam, I shut the monitor off. Because the last time I looked too long, I swear the camera feed blinked, and the TV was showing my desk. You ever hear a TV click on when no one touches the remote? It's worse when it happens at night. You start to question things when you're alone too long. After my fiancé left, I kept the apartment. He didn't want it, said it felt off. like the walls were listening. I thought he was just being dramatic. It's a third-floor unit in a renovated building near Baltimore. Old pipes, thin walls, drafty windows. I chalked up every weird sound to the age of the place. But about 3 weeks after he left, the TV started turning on by itself. Not during the day, always around 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd be asleep, and suddenly, click. Bright light. Buzzing speakers. Sometimes it'd just be a blank screen. Sometimes a random channel. Sometimes static. At first, I figured the remote was glitching or something was wrong with the wall outlet. So I unplugged it every night before bed. And still, it would turn on. The first time it did that while unplugged, I thought I was going crazy. I checked every connection. Nothing was plugged in, no backup power, no smart features. This was an older TV, no Wi-Fi, no apps. Still, it was on. Blue screen, volume maxed out. I backed out of the room, shut the door, and slept on the couch that night. The next morning, the TV was off again. No power, no signs anything had happened. I told myself I imagined it, then it started happening while I was watching something. I'd be mid-episode, and the channel would switch. Not like a normal input change, like the whole system glitched and jumped to something else. Once it flipped to a black and white surveillance feed. No sound, just a hallway I didn't recognize. Fluorescent lights, linoleum floor. Looked like a hospital, the footage just played. I couldn't change the channel or turn the TV off. Then the hallway screen flickered, and the camera started moving, like someone was holding it. I unplugged the TV and left the apartment for the night. I asked the landlord if there'd been electrical issues. He said no. I asked if any units nearby were vacant or under construction. He hesitated, then told me the unit directly below mine had been sealed off, water damage and black mold. No one had lived there for months. But I swear, I heard footsteps under my living room at 2:30 a.m. for 3 nights straight. I told myself it was the pipes, maybe a rat. But one night, while lying in bed, I heard the TV click on again. I'd unplugged it. I sat up slowly. The bedroom door was cracked open. Light spilled in from the living room. I crept out and peeked around the corner. TV was on, but the screen wasn't showing a show or static. It was showing me, live, from behind. I turned around instantly, no one there. Looked back. Screen was black. I grabbed my keys, phone, and coat and walked out without even putting on shoes. I stayed with my sister for 3 days. When I came back, everything was off. TV unplugged, quiet. But someone had moved the remote. It was propped upright, pointed directly at where I sleep. I've since sold the TV, but sometimes I still hear the click in the middle of the night, and sometimes my phone lights up with no notification. Just a faint blue glow, like it's waiting to play something. I've since sold the TV, but sometimes I still hear the click in the middle of the night. And last week, my phone lit up on its own. No alert, no message. Just a soft blue screen. I posted about it online. Someone replied with a link to another story from this same channel about a guy who found foggy writing on his bathroom mirror at 3 a.m. His message said, "You're not the first. Go back to don't open the bathroom door, you'll understand. After what I saw that night, I can't trust silence anymore." After my friend's wedding, I agreed to house sit for them while they honeymooned in Cabo. They lived in a nice 2-story place in a quiet suburb outside Denver. Alarm system, Ring cameras, a big, lazy golden retriever named Max. It was the kind of house where nothing bad was supposed to happen. The only weird thing? They had blackout curtains in every room. I figured it was for sleep or privacy, but on the second night I noticed something strange. Max wouldn't go into the living room after dark. He'd follow me around all day, but as soon as the sun set, he'd stop at the edge of that room and whine. Even when I called him in, he'd just stand there, ears back, tail low, making these soft, huffing noises. I didn't think much of it at first. Dogs are weird. But then it got worse. The third night, I was sitting on the couch watching a movie when the screen glitched. Like full screen static for half a second, then normal again. I figured it was the Wi-Fi. Then it did it again. This time, when it flicked back on, the image had changed. It was still the movie, same scene. But something was different. There was a shape in the background that hadn't been there before. Just a dark outline, humanoid, behind the main character. I rewound, paused, looked frame by frame. Gone. Max started growling behind me. The fourth night, I was brushing my teeth upstairs when I heard a thump downstairs. Not loud, but heavy, like something dropped. Max barked once, sharp and high-pitched, then went quiet. I wiped my mouth and called down, "Max, you okay?" No response, no bark, nothing. I crept halfway down the stairs and peeked around the corner. Max was in the hallway, staring into the living room, frozen. I called his name again. He turned to look at me, then bolted up the stairs and hid in the guest room. I didn't go down the rest of the night. The fifth night, I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to what I thought was someone whispering my name. Not loud, just, "Elliot." I sat up, heart racing, and listened. Nothing. I checked the hallway, empty. Max was in the corner, tail tucked under, staring at the window. I walked over, pulled the curtain aside. Nothing outside, but on the glass there was a handprint, pressed flat. Palm, fingers, all 5 marks, and it was on the inside. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the upstairs hallway, back against the wall, holding a lamp like a weapon. At 4:47 a.m., I got up to get water. I walked past the hallway mirror and froze, because someone was standing behind me, just over my shoulder. I spun around, nothing there. Looked back at the mirror, nothing. I walked backward down the hall, staring into every reflection I passed. No one. But when I turned on the kitchen light, Max was sitting at the edge of the living room, staring in again. And this time, he was growling at me. When my friends got home, I didn't say much, just handed over the keys and told them Max had been a good boy. A week later, I got a text from the groom. "Did you use the upstairs mirror at night? We found fingerprints behind it. Thought maybe you cleaned it and smudged the back." I hadn't touched it. Oh, and if you haven't listened to the first story in this series, don't open the bathroom door. Go back now. I'm starting to think these stories aren't random, and someone might be standing behind you too. When the door finally opened, the chain lock was still hanging from the inside. When I rented the basement apartment, I knew it wasn't ideal. It was a last-minute move. My roommate bailed, my lease was ending, and I needed something cheap and immediate. A friend of a friend hooked me up with a converted basement unit in a family home just outside of Boise. Walkout entrance, small kitchenette, decent lighting. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. The owners were an older couple. Quiet. The husband did woodworking in the garage, the wife kept to herself. We rarely crossed paths. I moved in on a Sunday, slept fine that first night. The next day, I noticed the door stuck a little when I closed it. Not a big deal. It just took some pressure to latch. There was a deadbolt and a chain lock, both from the inside. I kept it locked every night. Always. That's why what happened on the third night didn't make sense. I came home around 10 p.m. from a night class, groceries in hand. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, the door was already open. Not wide, just cracked. But the chain was still latched. It was impossible. I stood there, frozen, trying to process it. The only way that chain could be latched was if someone was inside. I pushed the door slowly. It rattled against the chain. I called out, "Hello? Anyone in there?" Nothing. I ran back up the stairs, called the landlord, and told them something was wrong. The husband came down with me a few minutes later. By then, the door was closed and fully locked. From the outside, he asked if I had roommates. I said no. He shrugged, jiggled the door a few times, then said maybe it was just a draft and left. I knew better. That night I didn't sleep. I locked the door, checked it 3 times, and propped a chair under the handle for good measure. At 3:03 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something scraping. Not metal on metal, more like dragging, soft but steady, coming from the door. I crept out of bed, barefoot on the cold tile, and listened. The scraping stopped, then the knob turned, click, click, back and forth. I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence. Then I heard it, not from the door, but behind me. A whisper from the bathroom. I turned on every light, cleared every room, no one there, no windows open, no signs of entry. But the next morning, the inside of the door had muddy fingerprints, low to the ground, like someone had crouched while trying to open it. I cleaned them, didn't tell anyone. What would I even say? 2 days later, I stayed late on campus, too nervous to come home early. When I finally walked down to the basement, I found a slip of paper under the door. Just one word, written in all caps, "Still." I moved out the next day. The landlord asked why. I just said it was too far from class. But a week later, a friend sent me a link to a story on this same channel. A guy heard water running, found foggy writing on his mirror. Different house, same time, same message. If you missed that one, go back and watch Don't Open the Bathroom Door. I think whatever's creeping into our homes at night already got in once, and it left the door open behind it. All I wanted was one quiet night. Instead, I learned exactly how loud a whisper can be. All winter, the old stairs creaked when you walked on them. That wasn't new. I was renting the upstairs unit of a century-old house in upstate New York. Gorgeous place. Original wood, drafty windows, floors that always let you know when someone was coming. I lived alone. My landlord lived below me. Nice guy, Vietnam vet, walked with a cane, barely left the house. We had an agreement. I'd text him before having anyone over, and he'd let me know if maintenance needed access. It worked out. Until it didn't. The first time I noticed it, I was brushing my teeth. Quiet apartment. 10:41 p.m. I heard a step, the 4th one from the top, creak loudly. Then nothing. I froze. I hadn't moved. I was the only one home. I turned off the water and listened. Silence. I crept to the hallway and peeked down the staircase. No movement. I called out, "George, is that you?" Nothing. I told myself it was the wood settling. Old houses do that. But the next night it happened again, same step, same time. The 3rd night I waited. I sat in the hallway with the lights off, phone flashlight ready. Watched the stairs from behind a cracked bedroom door. At exactly 10:41, the 4th step creaked again. Just once. Not gradual, not part of a series, just a single intentional sounding step. Like someone paused there, I ran down the stairs, checked the door, still locked. Then I noticed something weird, a smear mark on the banister, like a handprint, but smudged, longer than mine. The 4th night I didn't wait. I sprinkled baking flour lightly across the steps. I needed to know. When I woke up the next morning, there were 3 footprints going up. None coming down, barefoot, long, wide set. I checked with the landlord, asked if he came up to fix anything. He just shook his head. Stairs? I haven't climbed those in 10 years. The final night I stayed out late, parked on the street, just sat in my car, watching the upstairs window. At 10:41, the stairwell light flicked on. I hadn't left it on. Then the silhouette appeared in the window. Just a shoulder and arm, like someone was peeking out. I didn't go inside. I left the keys in the mailbox and drove to my sister's place 2 towns over. I moved out 3 days later, but I kept the footage from my indoor security cam, the one facing the stairs. And on the last night, it shows me leaving, locking the door, walking out of frame. Then, exactly 10:41 p.m., the 4th step creaks and something leans around the stairwell corner, just enough to look into the camera. If this is the first story you're watching, go back to Don't Open the Bathroom Door. That one started with a sound too, and we're all starting to hear it. Keeping the blinds closed isn't what protects you. It just keeps you from seeing what's already watching. Keeping a tight sleep schedule is hard when your room feels like it's breathing. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the walls expanded a little when the sun went down. I live in a small studio above a barber shop in St. Louis. Cheap rent, short lease, and way too many weird noises after dark. The window in my room faces a narrow alley. It's never bright, never busy, and too tight for anyone to really walk through. Just concrete, one motion light, and the neighboring brick wall. My blinds always stayed shut, until they didn't. It started with something small. I'd wake up in the morning and notice the blinds were tilted. Not fully open, but not how I left them. I assumed maybe I bumped them in my sleep, but I sleep on the opposite wall, nowhere near them. The second time, the blinds were raised 2 inches, just enough to see out, or in. I checked the window lock, still sealed. No signs of a break-in. I convinced myself it was the building shifting, maybe drafts. But the air wasn't moving, nothing else was disturbed. One night, I set my phone on the sill facing the blinds. I left the camera rolling while I slept, just to see. The next morning, I watched the footage. Nothing for the first few hours. Then, at 3:14 a.m., the blinds lifted halfway, slowly, like someone was easing them up inch by inch. Then they dropped, fast, like someone let go. No wind, no bugs, no shadows, just motion. I showed the landlord. He laughed. Probably a rat or something messing with the cords. There's no cord, they're spring-loaded. He stopped replying after that. I duct-taped the bottom of the blinds to the wall, tight. That night, I woke up to the sound of a snap. The duct tape had pulled off, one strip hanging loose. The blinds were halfway up again. Only this time, the motion light in the alley was on. I stared at the window. I couldn't see a face, but I felt one looking back. The next night, I left the camera recording again. I didn't sleep, just laid there. At 3:12 a.m., the blinds didn't move, but I heard a soft tap on the glass. 1 finger, then 2, then a slow drag across the window pane. I sat up fast, heart in my throat. The motion light clicked on, nothing there, but my phone lit up and the recording app closed on its own. That morning, someone slid a flyer under my door. No name, no logo, just a headline in bold black letters. They always watch first. Underneath it, a story title, Don't Open the Bathroom Door. If you haven't seen that one yet, go watch it. Now. Because whatever this thing is, it doesn't break in, it studies you. And when it knows you won't fight back, it moves the blinds. Everyone told me sleepwalking was harmless, but none of them saw where I was going. Everyone laughed when I brought it up at work. I told them I woke up one night standing in my kitchen. Cabinet doors wide open, fridge humming. Both hands wet like I'd just washed them. But I didn't remember doing any of it. They said it was stress, sleepwalking. Maybe my brain was just processing. But it kept happening. At least twice a week I'd wake up in a new spot. The bathtub, the hallway. Once I found my feet muddy like I'd gone outside, and my apartment door? still locked from the inside. I bought a camera, one of those cheap indoor ones that uploads to the cloud. The first 2 nights, nothing happened. Then, on the third, I woke up on the floor with a nosebleed. No memory, just pain and dried blood on my pillow. I checked the footage. At 2:42 a.m., I sat up in bed, swung my legs over and stood still for 30 seconds, just facing the wall. Then I walked to the front door, unlocked it, and stepped out into the hallway. The camera only captured audio from that point. Faint steps and something else. Another set of footsteps, heavier, coming down the hall toward me. Then, static. I emailed the building manager, asked for hallway footage. He said their cameras weren't active right now. Didn't explain why. I asked my upstairs neighbor if she heard anything that night. She said, "I don't know about that night, but I heard a man whistling outside your door last week. Thought you had company." I didn't. A week later, I set up 2 cameras, one in the bedroom, one pointing at the front door. I didn't sleep that night. I watched live on my phone. At 3:08 a.m., I sat up again. Same pattern, blank stare, straight to the door. Only this time, the door was already unlocked, and something was standing behind it. Just a shadow, tall, unmoving. I didn't open the door. I backed away, laid back down, never took my eyes off the camera. In the morning, both recordings were gone. App glitched, footage wiped, but the door was open, not wide, just cracked. And on the floor, someone had written something in soap. "You're almost ready." The worst part? My phone buzzed later that day. Unknown number. All it said was, "Start over. Don't open the bathroom door." I don't think this ends when you wake up. And if you skipped that first story, go back. Because if they know you're not watching, that's when they start moving. One last thing before we go. You've made it through all 9 stories. You didn't sleep. You stayed awake. But maybe you're still wondering, what's the thing connecting them? What's behind the door, the glass, the footsteps, the whisper? It's never shown itself, but it's there, watching, testing. Some people call it a shadow. Some say it's a pattern. Others, they stop talking. But I'll give you one last clue. It only comes when you forget the first warning. And that warning, it's hiding in plain sight, in the first letters of every story title, and in the first word of every story told. Put those letters together, both sets. They'll tell you what it wants. And if you've already forgotten the first one, it's probably already inside. You've heard every voice, you've seen every story, but there's one last message, and it's not in the titles. Go back. Write down the names of the people who sent these in. First letters only. If you figure it out, you might be the only one who wakes up in time. You've seen the signs. You've heard the warnings. But there's still one thing you haven't uncovered. The full truth. The real answer. It's been hiding just out of reach. Check the channel posts. You might just find what you've been looking for. That is, if you can stay awake.